Well, hello and welcome to the Learning R with Amber Matteson and John Gray uh, webinar or video. I don't know what to call us.
I have no idea.
Is that okay? Okay, so what we're doing with this video is to kind of walk you through a series of lessons on how to learn R that Amber built using labs that I used in my Stat 232 class in the 2019 year. And so we're going to just go through them, and I'm not very good at R, so I'm going to learn R while you're learning R. And so I opened R first, and it asked me which one of the R's I should use. Should I be 64 or 32?
64-bit.
64-bit. And we want the 3.6.2, right?
Yes, the latest version.
So I just had R Studio and R updated. So if you just put R on your own computers, you'll have a very similar experience as I will getting this going and starting it. So you can see all those little bits as well. So here we are in R Studio. What should I do?
Well, right now you just have your command line and you want to go through the lessons first.
Well, what is R Studio?
R Studio is a graphical user interface for R. It helps you, well, let me try to think. It's easier for the beginner to use, and it's also easier for people who use R professionally, just because it minimizes the amount of code that you have to write on the screen.
So what are we looking at here? This is very similar to what if I only had opened R, what I would look at. There was a console, right?
That's correct.
But there's other things in here.
So this your source. You can actually open up coding or code files or R Markdown files in here, and you can actually write your code into the file and run it from this screen.
And of course, none of us know what you're talking about, but hopefully by the end of these lessons that we will.
Okay.
And then over here, we've got a couple more windows that would be available to us as we move forward. So a big difference between R and R Studio is that this is a graphical user interface more than just the straight up R. So we would encourage you to use R Studio to learn R. So what we've got is a series of lessons that are loaded onto an Open Science Framework project page, which if you're watching this, you have access to. We're going to go through this lesson here so that you can see what we're seeing as well. So that is the lesson that we're going to page through. And I'm going to go back to R and we will start walking through it. So the first thing we're going to do in the lesson is learn some basic functions while introducing a new data set or a data set that we're going to use throughout the R lessons. And everything needs to be typed in. Don't copy and paste, because sometimes copy and paste gives you the wrong quotation marks, if nothing else. So I'm scrolling through my lesson over here. So the first thing that we're asked to do in the general introduction, why don't I scroll down here? So these are the topics that are introduced. We're going to learn about basic descriptive statistics. Open an R, we have that open, and then type 5 plus 4. Type 5 plus 4. So 5 plus 4. Well, it's 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
good.
That's good to know. 5 plus 4 is 9. R can do calculations, but it will not store them unless you tell it to. So look at me breaking the rules that she's providing. I'm going to copy. Shh, don't tell anybody. I'm going to copy and paste this. So if I type 5 and then that arrow and 3 plus 2, nothing happens.
Oh, something happened. You just don't see it.
So oh.
Now what you did is you assigned 3 plus 2 to an object called 5, and so to see what's inside the object, you have to tell R to show you, or you have to call the object by typing 5.
Oh, typing 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not going to work because R is case sensitive. You have to have a capital F.
Oh, I have to have a capital F. Wait. I have my cap locks on, people. That's why it's not working. There we go. And it actually is looking for us to type 5.
Yes.
It's giving us a prompt. Okay, so if I type 5 now, I get 5.
Yeah.
We can also learn apparently that pi. This is geometry. Are we in a geometry class?
A little bit, yeah.
Radius for.
You can just hit enter.
Oh.
It auto completes.
All right.
You can also use things like the sine function, tangent, cotangent in there if you'd like to.
But we not now. We don't have that now, right?
You can right now, yes.
Wait, what is that? Tell me what you're telling me to do.
Oh, I'm saying it's like a calculator, so you can use the other functions like sine or cosine. And so you would just type sin and then parenthesis and then a number inside of it. And then I'll tell you the sign of it.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
So essentially any basic calculator function,
yes.
It'll just do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the last thing you were telling us to do is to type answer to everything is this thing. So the answer to everything apparently is 42.
Yes.
Why is that?
That's just the answer to life, universe, and everything.
And for the people watching this that don't know what you're referencing, what is that pop culture reference that you're putting in there?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Okay, very good. Okay, so as we progress through the lesson, so nothing happens when we put the code in, but if we then type these words, which you saw, then the code comes out. So this next step is to tell us, so everything to the left of that arrow line is an object name that you're saying. And so the next thing that we're doing is we're going to make an object name that is this Fibonacci sequence.
But it stores it as a list. That's an important thing.
So that little C in front of the parentheses means it's a list instead of an object?
No, well,
or a list is a type of object.
Yes, a type.
But not all objects are lists.
That's right.
Okay. And so if I then type, whoops.
That's right.
Then we get our list to come back out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then here you're showing, I've already showed the case sensitive issue, but here she's showing you that it is case sensitive and you shouldn't mess up. Okay, so we can also do help. There's a lot of help functions, and so we're going to do help and library. Help, library. Why do we have quotes inside parentheses? That looks a little odd.
Some functions require you to use quotes. I don't understand that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you saw what happened on the screen over here on the right, this populated. And so it tells us what a library is, how you're used, and then it gives you arguments that you would use for the library. So if you're ever trying to troubleshoot something that you're trying to do, you can do help, open parenthesis, quotes, and then name a thing you're looking for, and hopefully that'll get to where you're going. Oh, what's this? This is another way. Question mark.
Is another way to...
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, but the double question mark is not. Double question mark will load a web page, and it'll load a web page, and usually on the side of your screen, and it will list vignettes and other things like that would contain the library function.
Something will happen.
Something will happen.
Oh, there it happened.
Yeah.
So over here, if you want to learn more about the library function, there's all sorts of extra information. Okay. Now we need to set a working directory. If you haven't already set up your working directory, go to miscellaneous, change working directory, and select the working directory where the EME2 dataset is stored. Ooh, I don't know that I stored the EME2 dataset. Should I download that and store it somewhere?
Yes, you should.
We're going to pause and put that somewhere, so I'll be right back. Maybe we'll have to cut it out later. It doesn't seem to want to pause for me. Okay, so our next task is to set a working directory. I have the data set identified. Here is my working directory. So if we go back to RStudio and set our working directory, what do we do?
Oh, you can either use a command to do it, or you can use one of the features in RStudio, which is just to use a menu option.
So where's the menu option?
It's under Session.
Under Session.
And
Set working directory.
Yep.
Choose directory.
Yes.
And then, okay, it's already for me set, but you would, pop through to wherever that is, and then set your working directory. So it says learning R with Ryan Sherman, who was the first person that was trying to teach me how to do this. But I'm so slow. That was 10 years ago, and I still didn't learn it. So thank you, Amber, for moving us forward. And maybe someday I'll change it to learning R with Amber Matteson, since it's no longer Ryan's.
Okay.
Okay. So we've got our working directory set. And then now you want us to type this.
Yes.
Right? So this says to me, the object called eme2 is going to be read as a CSV file called eme2_r_500m.csv. Yes?
Yes.
And now that exists, I've opened the file, type eme2 and hit enter. Okay.
Yep.
eme2 and hit enter. So what's EME stand for?
Emerging Adulthood Measured at Multiple Institutes.
Yeah, and that's more of a quiz on my part, because that's actually my data set that a group of 32 researchers put together. That Amber took 500 of the 3,200 in a clean data set, and that's the data set we're using here.
Yes.
And so when I type eme2, it spits out a data, but this is not, there's a lot more data than this.
Yes. So when you call a data frame, is essentially what this is, it's only going to print out the first few rows of the data set along with the headers. And there's other ways that you can view this data. If you go into your lesson, you can use the header function, which just tells you all of the,
the column labels?
Yeah.
And then the first 5.
Yes, which is very similar to the just typing in the object.
But the reason it's similar in this case is because there are so many variables that you can only print 5 out. If there were 2 variables with 50 in each, we would see all 100 of those.
Yes,
right?
That's correct.
Yeah. And so one way is that head function, which lists all the column top. The other way is this str function, right?
Yes, structure.
Do I need quotes?
No, you don't need quotes.
And the structure function tells us what the variable names are. I'm going to maximize this for the moment. It lists all the variables that are in there. It tells us what type of variable it is. What is this, missing data?
Yeah.
How missing data?
Yes.
And then the range of scores that are available. Okay. So head, column titles, structure, variable names, and how they're set up. And so that number 8 point is just kind of repeating what we just said.
In a little more detail.
In much more detail. And that's for you to read back on again. And then the next thing we need to do, this is a weird thing in R, is that R itself has lots of capacity, but it's very hard to use. So people have written functions and packaged those functions together. And then we use those packages, but in order to do that, we've got to install them, and then we have to use them. So you only have to install a library once. You only have to install a package once, but you have to load that package into your library every time.
You open them.
And so here is one of those examples where, because I didn't type it directly, do you see I'm fixing this? The wrong quotes are in there. So I had to retype it and put the right quotes in. Now it's going through, and those of us who are used to SPSS and SAS and so on, when we see all that red in there, it probably freaks us out. But expect that to happen.
Yep.
And so now it's in there, and now I need to say that it's the library that we're going to use. So now I'm going to type library psych, library, and again, I don't have the quotes. And so now I've stated that we're going to use it as the library. And it's given me the prompt back, which means that it's done. It's happy. Is there somewhere I can look in RStudio to verify that happened?
I have no idea.
I think there is, isn't it? Can't we go over here and look at our packages?
Oh. Well, that just tells you the ones that you've installed. It doesn't tell you which ones you've loaded.
Okay.
Yeah. And
are you sure?
Oh.
That little check mark is telling me that's now being... I bet that's is telling me.
Okay, that's something new I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so because we now have this package called Psych, thanks Bill Revell at Northwestern, by the way. Now that we have this package called Psych loaded in, we can do some other things. And the next lesson says, now that you're there, now type describe the EMI2. So describe, and then EMI2. This $, when we see a $, in R, says get this thing, just this thing. $, means just this thing, in my mind. Is that?
Yeah.
And then just this thing is just item 1 from the idea. So get just item 1 and give us descriptive statistics. And we see there's 500 of them. The mean is 3.66. Is the standard deviation 0.59, and so on. There's the trim mean, the MAD. Do we remember what MAD is? There's the minimum. It's the median average deviation. Yeah. And then the min, the max, the range, skew, and kurtosis. There is both skew and kurtosis in this, and the standard error. And then those are all just defaults. So our instructions are to use the structure variable or structure command to find something else to use. So I'm going to just grab this belong _2 and do that one. Describe EMI2 $.
And you can always just hit enter.
Belong _2. Yep. And now we've got those variables there. And so, wait a minute. We've just finished the first lesson.
Yes, we did.
So if you're in my Stat 232 class right now, and you would like to get bonus points associated with this R lesson, this is your lab assignment. And if you turn this lab assignment into Amber, and she approves it, then we'll add some points to your lab assignment number 1. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining Amber and I in our first experience with learning R with Amber Matteson and John Gray, the Perfect Second Stringers. Check out the Perfect Second Stringers on YouTube. And in the meantime, Sci-Chi, the Center for Open Science, and of course Little Jerry's if you're from Tacoma. Thanks for all our sponsors. Bye.